Time is approximately forever.
Cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream. We currently have a decent turnout already in chat. We're ready to get going. We're ready to turn on the face cam because it's official. Ron DeSantis, he's over. He dropped out of the 2024 presidential race today, this afternoon, about 20 minutes after I put out the video that said Ron DeSantis is about to drop out. You know, maybe he could have waited a couple hours, let the video cook a little bit more, but I guess on his way out, he had to accidentally take another L in some way, and also he took another L on the way out by misquoting Winston Churchill when it wasn't really a Winston Churchill quote that he quoted. But you know what? Nevertheless, it is what it is. I'm not here to do this whole stream where we're going to dunk on Ron DeSantis 24/7. We're still going to, get our proper jabs in here and there because we've been, I think, analyzing his campaign fairly objectively this whole entire time. And it's been a disaster. It's been a failure. When it first launched, I said, what are they doing? The people he surrounded himself with, the fact that they burned all of this money that could have gone to the general when it was clear Trump would be the nominee to do what? Get 21% in Iowa? Like, seriously? Like, that's something that I think that, I've been right about this entire time, and it's 100% true. You look at how his campaign unfolded, and I said it in the video, and I'll say it again. These people never took criticism well. And I'm not talking about the voter base. I'm not talking about the voters that showed up to caucus for Ron DeSantis. I don't think that those people are necessarily harmful or were trying to harm Donald Trump, because I think a lot of them are going to come home at the end of the day. And I think we need to reach out to these people, the people that are Republicans that did not vote for Trump in the primary. They're going to have to be a focus to get them on board. I think a lot of them will come on board. I don't think that I have any animosity towards those people. But when it comes down to these influencers that worked overtime to harm Donald Trump, well, a lot of them took a big fat L today. And those that are going to stand with DeSantis and endorse Donald Trump, because that's another thing DeSantis did, I'll give credit. It was his first good move in a while. It was the first W that he's taken in well over a year. But other than that, it's like, yeah, if the people that were shilling this guy aren't going to fall in line with Donald Trump for one reason or another, it proves that a lot of those people are controlled opposition. However, I do believe that they are a very small minority. There's probably like a couple thousand of those type of people on Twitter, and that's where they exist, Twitter, not real life. And a lot of them probably will end up coming home over the next, 10 months or so, which is the time frame that they're going to need to take in order to get there. So either way, you're looking at the big picture. Ron DeSantis, he dropped out today. And he did a good thing, because now the party's going to start to unite behind Trump even more so than they already were. Ron DeSantis did what he could do to save his own rear end, because he understands that it's been nothing short of an embarrassment for him, and he doesn't want to get embarrassed any further, despite the fact that pretty much every single person in the entire world that's in his inner circle didn't want him to do this. It's honestly like hilarious how delusional not just DeSantis is, but the people around him were, the people that ran his campaign into the ground. And it's like, yeah, the same people that said, no, we're doing everything right. You're doing everything wrong. All the polls are fake. They find out the polls are real. They try to cope. They try to throw out these long shot Hail Mary propositions, or they hope that Donald Trump is going to be arrested as a political prisoner so they could get their guy in there. Well, today Ron DeSantis basically took to social media and ended his campaign the way it began, with a whimper on twitter.com, better now known as X. And we're going to play part of this video. He went on, he talked about his campaign for 2 minutes or so. I don't think people want to sit through all of that, but this is kind of the more important part that we're going to play right here, and we're going to analyze and react to it. So let's go.
But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign.
There it is.
I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him.
See, there you go. And technically, that's a good statement. It is. And the supporters of DeSantis in the real world that might have supported him, staunchly supported him in the primary, him going out there and saying this will probably help expedite the process of getting them on board for voting for Donald Trump in November. And we have a long, long way to go before November, but even the primary process, when it comes down to Trump versus Haley in New Hampshire, we're looking at that, and it's like a lot of DeSantis's primary support is just going to go to Trump. He might crack 60 in New Hampshire, and if you didn't have early voting, I guarantee you, in a head-to-head, he would crack 60% in the state of New Hampshire on Tuesday, which we will be here still. We will be live streaming. Would not be surprised if Haley drops out after New Hampshire, but I think that she probably waits until South Carolina, but let's continue.
Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is...
See, that's funny because he's lying. He's still lying on his way out about the COVID thing, which honestly, I'm not trying to be too petty about this, but I'm just being objective because DeSantis and Trump basically had the same COVID stances. The difference is DeSantis decided to make his brand kind of like a revisionist brand surrounding COVID after the fact. He did lock down his state. He did praise Fauci even after Donald Trump would be sparring with Fauci a little bit on Twitter. So, there's not really a whole lot of disagreements there on the COVID stuff. A lot of it's gaslighting. He's still gaslighting on the way out, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's just trying to say, oh, we have differences, but nevertheless, support Trump regardless because of it. So I'm not going to be crying too much about it.
Superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
That's
the days
true.
of putting Americans last, of kowtowing to large corporations, of caving to woke ideology are over. I thank all of our passionate supporters who have stood by us through it all.
So he just goes on.
Then we had people volunteer to come to Iowa in the middle of a blizzard to knock on doors
and get 21%. But either way, like I said, it's not about that. It's not about dunking on DeSantis on his way out at every possible instance. It is about expediting the process of party unity. And yeah, we could look back at it. We could critique it. We're going to say, yeah, it was a disaster. DeSantis should never have ran in the first place. He doomed any political future he has. That still stands. He's trying to save face, but I'm not going to sit back here and say, well, Trump needs to reject his endorsement or whatever, because we need everybody on board. We need the entire party on board to win this election. And that's kind of how it is for every election cycle. And expediting the process is a very, very good thing. So having all these people drop out, having all these people, even some people that I'm not fans of or wouldn't want to be president, endorsing Trump, like Tim Scott even. I'm not a Tim Scott fan at all. I'm not really a fan of Ron DeSantis, especially at this point. But at the end of the day, as a party, if we are going to unite behind Trump soon, that is a good thing. Now, in terms of Donald Trump's inner circle, a lot of these people that were like the staunch DeSims, I don't think they're going to be in Trump's inner circle and try to, subvert his presidency to the point where it's like, yeah, some people in DeSantis's corner might like outright oppose Trump because, they know they're not going to get a job in Trump's administration or whatever. But it's like, it doesn't matter. These people, these candidates, they could support Trump. I think that's a good thing. Obviously, we don't want the advisors of the DeSantis campaign that ran it into the ground in Donald Trump's corner, running his campaign into the ground. And I really like who Donald Trump is currently surrounding himself with compared to 2020. And I think you're seeing a step in the right direction regarding messaging. He is competent. He is on point. He's talking about issues that matter to the American people. And as a result, he's doing a very good job. As a result, he's going out there and he's putting on these epic performances in these primaries. It's going to be even bigger. He's destroying Nikki Haley. He's going to destroy her in New Hampshire. He's going to destroy her across the board. It's going to be absolutely epic. But when we look at this, it's like, yeah, not only that, you talk about the general election, you talk about any holdovers that might have said they're undecided, getting these people on board. It's a small portion of the American populace, but the more people that support Donald Trump, the better. You're going to need that to go out there and defeat Joe Biden. Now, Donald Trump is the most electable candidate in the running. We know that. Ron DeSantis was a complete bust on the primary stage, but if he were to ever get to a general election, it would have been a whole lot worse for Republicans. A national election is not the same thing as a governorship election, and that we know. We've seen that time and time again throughout American history. Candidates who did very well in their states, getting the nominations, completely falling flat on the national stage. It's a good thing DeSantis did that in the primary for the Republicans and not in the general, that Donald Trump can go out there, use his messaging, use the fact that he's already been in the White House. He doesn't need any on-the-job training. He has a record to compare and contrast with Biden's, a very, very good record at that. Even if you want to say it's imperfect, it's still a very good record. And comparing and contrasting that with Biden's record is going to be absolutely huge for him, because then he has the upper hand on everything. He's not some unknown quantity, even though Democrats are going to try to run on the issue of abortion and that alone, because that's pretty much all they have in their corner. Well, at the end of the day, it's very likely that Donald Trump would do, the best job for any Republican to kind of neutralize the issue, because he does take a more reasoned approach rhetorically. Of course, they're going to still hit him on it, but the attacks will bounce off more on him compared to some of these other Republicans that have called for, 6-week or even up to like 15-week national bans. Trump is taking a hands-off approach to it, partially because he knows there's not a lot he can get done on the issue. And like, you have a lot of people in like the more pro-life camp which I agree with their stances on the issue, don't get me wrong, but they're like, well, Trump is not supporting a full national ban. We can't support him. And it's like, first of all, just supporting a rhetorically, a policy that pleases you rhetorically that would never get passed is not something that is beneficial, because it would hurt Trump in a general election, obviously, and that we know. The public's not entirely ready for it, and there's not even so much you can realistically do at the national level regarding that issue. So him just saying we're going to keep it to the states, we're not going to codify anything, that's pretty much it. And maybe I guess you could say when it comes down to like the Mexico City policy, he's going to reinstate that, as all Republicans do. He's going to maybe in states where you have like military bases in red states that have it banned, he'll ban abortion there. But other than that, like that's all you can really do. Maybe you can try to get like a ban on late term abortion or something like that. But either way, it's like, yeah, all the attacks on Donald Trump from the right did not really seem to land. And I think that's one of the reasons why DeSantis ended up losing, because he couldn't pick a lane. Is he, pandering to those who think Trump isn't far right enough, or is he trying to pander to like the donor class, the Republican establishment? He was kind of in no man's land, and that is why he kind of ended up falling short, because he's not Donald Trump. And there's only one Trump, and you can't like run against Trump acting like you're dollar store Trump without like the personality, or without any of like the more positive traits that Donald Trump brings to the table, and be successful. And that's one of the reasons why the Ron DeSantis campaign failed. I mean, it's true. And I don't really think he ever had a shot, but everything I've been saying about this guy, even from like late 2021, when I was still more praiseworthy of Ron DeSantis than critical of Ron DeSantis, but I said when he gets to the national level, it's an entirely different ball game, and the guy doesn't have exactly what it takes, especially if you talk about going toe-to-toe with Trump. Now, I didn't even think he would run against Trump at that point, but apparently now he has ran against Trump, and now he's not running against him anymore because he got absolutely BTFO'd, and he realizes there's no path. Because you spend all your resources in Iowa, you get what? How many voters even turned out for the guy in Iowa? Did he get 20,000 votes in the entire state? I know it was a low turnout election, but seriously, he doesn't even have that much of a base to begin with. I feel like if anything, the low turnout hurt Donald Trump and helped some of his challengers, and we'll probably see what happens when we get to South Carolina or these other states, but Trump is going to be wiping the floor with Nikki Haley. He's going to be wiping the floor with, hopefully, Joe Biden in November, and the faster the party unites behind him, the better. He is the electable candidate in the running. We've established that. People are like, oh, Trump's going to lose. He's going to lose by 200 electoral votes. They say he's going to lose Texas. He's going to lose Florida. It's like, where are these people exactly coming from? Because there's been absolutely zero evidence that would prove that Donald Trump is going to lose the election, let alone lose it by a landslide. Anything can happen. He's not guaranteed to win. We know he's not guaranteed to win. We have to fight for it. We're not going to give up. But still, these people that go out there and say, well, Donald Trump, he's DOA. We should have nominated DeSantis. They clearly haven't watched the DeSantis campaign. They haven't looked at Donald Trump's messaging. They kind of fall victim to this liberal framework, basically. And it's not really working out for them whatsoever. It's not. But we almost have 2,000 live viewers, folks. 2,000 live viewers on a Sunday night where it's almost 11 o'clock Eastern. But it's true. It's 100% true. This campaign was doomed to fail from the start. And you look at the launch, the Twitter Space launch that didn't work. It took 40 minutes to get it going, and even then it was choppy audio the entire time. Folks, it was brutal. He lost the moment he announced, but even then beforehand. And they could say the indictments helped Trump. And I agree that they helped him a little bit, but I think that DeSantis' response to everything was just awful, including the indictments. And this is the first time he said Donald Trump's name by name, so credit due. Pretending Trump didn't exist wasn't exactly worth it. If DeSantis wanted to get the MAGA base on his side, he should have done what Vivek did, but he didn't have the personality, or Vivek, I should say, because I've been pronouncing his name wrong, and so many people won't let me, they won't ever live it down. But still, he didn't have the personality to be the showman. He sat in the corner on the debate stage every debate, and it didn't work out well for him. It didn't. The only debate he did well was when, Sean Hannity basically had to hold his hand against Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom just didn't really have that good of a night. for him, but I think Gavin Newsom was just overhyped, and I think that's why it kind of seemed a little underwhelming in terms of his performance, but also the fact that he didn't have any facts on his side to really back him up. But either way, it's over. DeSantis couldn't pick a lane, and that doomed him. And, you know, the indictments, they did help Trump, but after the indictments, you saw a surge for Haley, a surge for Vivek, I should say. You saw a surge for some other candidates at the time, but you saw DeSantis take a nosedive, and it's not just because of the fact that Trump was indicted. It's because DeSantis had poor responses to it, and his campaign was just awful. And the more they saw the guy, the less they liked him because, you know, he was awkward. He didn't come off as somebody who really was like a fighter. He was just sitting there. He would like stand on the debate stage, say these already like focus group tested type statements, and they were scripted. He would never jump in. He would never try to like go on offense. He would never try to attack. It just proved that he just didn't have what it takes. He doesn't have the X factor. You know, there's a reason why he fell behind Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is more of a skilled politician. Now, she's not going to win because the Republican base is not what it was in 2004. If she was running in the 2004 Republican primary and Donald Trump was not a factor, she would win probably overwhelmingly because of the fact that, you know, she plays well to that crowd, but that crowd is not the majority of the Republican base anymore. It's not. And as a result, we know what happened. So Ron DeSantis, he dropped out, that we know. Now, I did want to touch base on some other aspects of it because I've seen a lot of people on the DeSantis campaign basically admit that Trump is going to be the nominee. Some have said they would support him. I commend them for that. They, you know, made a mistake, and I'm not saying I would trust those people in Trump's inner circle, but I'm saying, yeah, you want to help out Trump, we need all hands on deck. We need to reach out to people because you have to build a coalition. I want to reach out to, you know, we reach out to people that voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election because that's how we build a coalition. You reach out to the voters, but not some of these influencers because some of these influencers, they are still being agitators because it was never about DeSantis for these people. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them, you know, they like DeSantis, they'll come over to Trump. But there's a few agitators on Twitter who were never really about supporting Ron DeSantis. They were about sowing division. They were about hurting and weakening President Trump ahead of his re-election bid in a general election. Many of them are talking about voting for RFK Jr., which is funny because they say Trump is not a real conservative. So then they vote for the lifelong liberal who supports socialized health care, who supports a radical strand of environmentalism, who supports reparations, who supports late-term abortion. Like, that's their guy. That's their guy, really? Like, that's the guy these people are going for? Oh, because he happened to have the same position Trump had on COVID or something like that. Oh, wow, like that's going to move mountains for these people. No, not how it works. Seriously, it's not. But you have a lot of these DeSantis or bust people. They're not numerous, but you have a few thousand, maybe at most, of them on Twitter. And that's a generous estimate as well. But I think a lot of them are these demoralization agents on the left. I mean, you know, if you're on Twitter, you know what accounts I'm talking about. Not all of the DeSantis people, but a lot of the people that have been the most insufferable. And I don't think they represent your average DeSantis voter in the real world, but they think they do. And they're saying Trump's going to lose in a landslide, despite having no evidence. And on top of that, they will go out there and they will say, I'm voting for RFK Jr. I will never, unite with these people. And then, they try to list reasons why. Some of them have said, Trump supporters dox some people. And it's like, okay, so if some people did something bad on social media, therefore you have to hand the country to Joe Biden? Seriously? That's just dumb. And it's, not even true. There's been doxing probably in both camps. Probably more so in the DeSantis camp than the Trump camp. And then they say, well, one person sent a tweet that implied that DeSantis' wife faked her cancer or something like that. And it's first of all, nobody agrees with that on the Trump side. Nobody is supporting that if that even happened, which maybe it happened, but it was implied or something. And yeah, that's not something that's good. I agree. But to sit back here and say, well, then you have to throw the country to Biden because somebody said something mean on Twitter. No. And honestly, if you want to play that game, you have to look at the DeSantis. Look at the DeSantis camp and how they've acted. because they've all acted just like that. They've accused Trump of having affairs with his attorney. They accused, Trump of like just being missing in action in the campaign trail while he was at his mother-in-law's funeral. Like, these people have said far worse and far more egregious things at a much, much higher volume, and they try to fall on that as a crutch. And like I said, these people have to be agitators because they clearly have no principles. They clearly don't care. These people are bought and paid for, possibly by Biden, to try and agitate and divide the right. But we're not going to let it happen. We're not. When it comes down to Donald Trump himself, because that's who you're voting for, not the base of the candidate, but you're voting for the candidate themselves, Donald Trump he attacked Ron DeSantis, but his attacks were, compared to these 2016 attacks, they were pretty tame. This primary was pretty tame compared to 2016. Like, Donald Trump was saying that Ted Cruz's dad was involved in the death of JFK, and basically Cruz called, his campaign was calling Trump's wife, basically a whore, and Trump hit back and implied that Ted Cruz's wife was ugly. And I mean, that's how the campaign was back in 2016. It was a lot more vicious. The Cruz crew was arguably far more insufferable than Team DeSantis even was, believe it or not. But it's like, that's how these things happen. I mean, this is the presidential campaign. For even on the left, you look at 2020. You see Kamala Harris. She basically said that Joe Biden was a racist and he was a rapist who raped that one woman. I think her name was Tara Reid or something. But then she eagerly endorsed him and then joined his VP team, which I think those are far more egregious insults thrown at the helm of Biden, and then she would team up with him. But that's just how politics works. To say that Donald Trump is uniquely egotistical or running a cult or anything, these people don't understand that that's just politics. The only problem that these people have is that Donald Trump represents something a little bit different in politics because he's not a career politician, and they tend to resent that. They really do. But in terms of these agitators, they're not real. They don't represent the average voter. I mean, even your average Nikki Haley voter, I mean, not like the Biden voters that are going to cross over in New Hampshire, but your average Nikki Haley voter probably votes for Trump as well. I mean, make no mistake about it, they probably do, for better or worse. And Donald Trump, thankfully, ruled her out as VP, another DeSantis campaign lie. But DeSantis's campaign lies down. It's done. It's over. And that's true, 100% accurate. And Trump said he will drop DeSanctimonious. He's not calling him DeSanctimonious anymore. It's over. The campaign, it was fun. It was fun. We'll still call him occasionally DeSanctimonious for fun, but Trump is dropping the nickname. He said it's officially retired, and it's going to speed up the party unification process. So there you go. And DeSantis will stay, and hopefully he'll go back to Florida and tend to his, insurance crisis problems that the state's been having, and it probably was having the problems even before he basically moved to Iowa. But his campaign's over. It's done. Now we can focus on Bird Brain, Nimrata, head of New Hampshire and South Carolina, who's definitely going to lose, and we're probably just going to spend more time laughing at her expense rather than spending time just trying to actively dunk on her policy-wise, because there's just so much subject matter there. And we know it all already. We know how awful she is. But yeah, it is over. It is over for Ron DeSantis. The campaign is done. No more DeSanctimonious, as Donald Trump put it. So there you go. And that is that. But it was a waste of time, a waste of money. You had a lot of insufferable people behind it and running it. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So, yep. Trump, another Trump victory. And if you look at the polls, you're looking at another one in the general election right now. And that's the main point of focus. So we have to unite the base. Everybody should be on board. And we got to go out there and we got to take on Biden. And we got to beat him. And in terms of indictments, now it feels like we might not even see any. We might not see any. And then the topic of discussion goes directly from that to the VP. The running mate. And I put out a poll just now because I want to get to this as well, because there is a growing speculation about Trump's running mate. And we look at this, and Vivek is actually leading the poll with 45%. So far, there's 1,600 votes. I think we're going to end the poll in 5 to 10 seconds from now, or at least we'll wait for the delay before we fully end it and get the final results from the poll. But so far, Vivek leads with 45. Lee Zeldin in second place with 24%. Ben Carson in third with 17. Elise Stefanik with 15%. And I did not include Kristi Noem. Something just tells me she's not going to be considered because of the fact that the scandals surrounding her whole affair, I mean, that is something that I think Trump is probably going to take into consideration. And she's not really uniquely strong on any issue or even with any demographic other than, oh, she's a woman. And I don't think she'd be the worst possible option, and that we know, but she would be underwhelming for the base. I just don't know if we're going to see that. But it is interesting. I want to do a video that talks about the pros and cons of every single realistic possible VP option. And that's the way it is, because you have all this speculation. And we're going to get to super chats in a few minutes here, guys. But I will say that in terms of the running mate, we've heard a lot of reports. And not all of these reports are accurate. Most of these reports are conflicting. I don't know what it's going to be. But Donald Trump is doing a lot of rallies. He's having, he had Stefanik at his rally in New Hampshire. He had Tim Scott at his rally in New Hampshire. He's rallied with Vivek. He's rallied with Lee Zeldin as well in New Hampshire, who I've talked about being a dark horse, wild card type of option because he does check the most boxes that Trump would probably be conventionally looking for in a VP. And we've talked about it. We've gone through the rep test. And what it shows, I mean, we see this report here. Sebastian Gorka, who, again, he's somebody who's somewhat close to Trump, but not super close. And he says he's heard rumblings that Trump has chosen his pick, saying it's a man, a former politician, a New Yorker who's currently campaigning with Trump, and his name is not Rudy Giuliani. And that's only one person, that is Lee Zeldin, who was a congressman, ran for governor, performed well. He lost, but I mean, that is, in politics, yeah, it's a moral victory, outperformed in the state of New York. So is it going to be Zeldin? I don't know. It's possible. He is campaigning with Trump, but either way, I think that Trump is rolling out these people on the campaign trail to see if they are somebody that he's going to consider VP material or not. We hear another reports from, I think, Roger Stone saying it's not Zeldin. But what do these people know? Because we've heard people close to Trump say it's this person or that person or this person. I think it's all noise. I think either way, it's all noise. I don't think Trump knows yet. Even in the Fox News town hall, when he was asked about it, in the Fox News town hall, what did he say? He said, I think I know who it's going to be, but they didn't say, who is your VP? They basically said, who is your short list? And then that's what Trump said. I think I know who it's going to be in terms of who's going to be in consideration, not necessarily that he already has his VP pick planned. And that's the way it is. And I could see why Trump would pick Zeldin, because Trump wants to do well in New York, and Zeldin is kind of like, it's like the yin and yang type of thing. He's not like going to be seen as the 2028 frontrunner. But I also could see why he might not want to pick Zeldin, because maybe he wants somebody that he feels like is going to be more loyal or less ambitious. And I think that somebody like Stefanik or however you pronounce her name, I'm sure somebody's going to correct me, as they usually do. But somebody like Elise probably would be the more, even though she has more of a liberal record in terms of her voting record, she also, I think, would not try to get in Trump's way. I think that she just would go along with whatever Trump wants to do, but she's still liked by the establishment. She could pull in some donors, and she is from New York, which, you know, those are positive qualities. I think there's a lot of nuance to this as well. And I think a lot of people just say he needs to pick a MAGA VP, or he needs to pick like the most MAGA person possible, or a successor. And I understand those arguments. You definitely don't want to pick somebody as the vice presidential role who is super weak, because on the 1% off chance something happens to you, you want the country to be in good hands. And Trump probably is going to pick somebody who is not going to be like a Nikki Haley or a total pushover, but at the same time, is he going to pick somebody who's like super MAGA or like Trump 2.0? Does he want to have like another alpha male type of person on the ticket. That's why I don't think that he's really going to go out there and pick somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, because I think he views him as too similar. I don't think he wants somebody who's going to take the shine away from him. So we hear all these reports left and right. Oh, it's this guy. Oh, it's this woman. No, it's probably, it probably means that these people could be in consideration, but we get a new report every single week. It'd be funny if he chose somebody out of nowhere. It'd be funny if he chose somebody nobody was expecting. I mean, some people say nobody was expecting Pence in 2016. I kind of disagree. Because, in the build up to the announcement, Pence was floated. But yeah, like it is true, like a month before that, everyone was talking about, Newt Gingrich. It could be Gingrich, or it could be Chris Christie or Ben Carson or some of these people. And it was none of those people at the end of the day. So either way, it's like we don't know who it's going to be. It could be Scott Walker for all we know. Hey, you got a governor from the Midwest who has a lot of appeal to donors that you could bring in that would help you down the stretch, and who's not like a total pushover who will get in your way. And he's been a staunch supporter of you for the past year on social media in a low-key fashion. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he came out of left field with somebody like that. Maybe not, but everybody who tries to claim, I know who it is, or I know it's not this person, regardless if they're like close to Trump's inner circle or not, I would not put a lot of stock into what they're saying. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Who's it going to be? I don't know. But we'll see. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on it, and that's fine. I think most people are going to be fine with it. Most people are going to fall in line. It's not going to stop any people from voting for that candidate so long as he doesn't go with somebody like Nikki Haley or somebody like that, or like a wild card individual, putting them on the ticket that's like too outlandish or too much of a reach to the other side. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to lose your base for sure. But people put up with Pence, and look at what Pence is doing now. And he's kind of always been that way, but it's been more low key. So either way, the VP, it doesn't matter that much so long as they don't get in his way, so long as they aren't awful all around. That's kind of just the way I see it, and I don't think that whoever he picks is going to be that instant successor. I don't think there really is a successor, and maybe the successor will be in his cabinet, but it's like, people talk about Tucker Carlson 2028. I don't think he picks Tucker. I think Tucker will be like an informal advisor or even a formal advisor, but I don't think he's going to go out there and pick Tucker Carlson. Tucker is working, I think, on a news network right now, but he is a staunch supporter of Trump. I'd be cool to see him at like some rallies, test out how he would be in like a big crowd environment. I haven't really seen Tucker in that sort of venue before, but I think he would do great in that role. But in terms of like who Trump's VP is, it's not the biggest deal in the world so long as he doesn't like pick somebody who's awful, all around awful. Like, let's be real here. So anyways, guys, you've waited for it. We've been on for quite some time, and now it's time we get to your super chats because we have quite a bit of them. So I do want to get to the super chats real quick. We have a lot of them. It's Cool Guy Rye. Says, been at Army infantry training for the past few months. Glad to be back. Well, glad to have you. We got 2,000 people in chat. Like the stream. Let's get it to 1,000 likes. We got 2,000 people at the Desantis campaign's wake tonight. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, when Vivek was speaking for Trump, it seemed that Trump was getting irritated, like he was being sidestepped, and Vivek was stealing Trump's thunder while going on and on. Am I right, or am I seeing something that's not there? Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Trump was irritated. I think Donald Trump was kind of, looking at the crowd. I think he was saying, how is this being received? Because Trump is somebody who, like, is this guy who will go out there and he will sit back and he will look and he will analyze. He is very intuitive. Make no mistake about it. People will say he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He's an intelligent guy. He really is. He's not dumb. He knows that certain candidates or certain people that could be considered to be his VP, he has to watch the reception. And then when Trump took the mic over, he said he's going to be working with us for a very long time. What does that mean? Does that mean he's going to be VP? Probably not. But does it mean that he's going to be in the cabinet? Yeah, I think that he'd be a great officer in the cabinet in some sort of position. Even if it has to be press secretary, he'd do a phenomenal job in that role. Absolutely. So let's see. Johnny Hartdog for 20 again says, also, it's really sad about Ron. He was a great governor, had most of the right policies, called BS on a lot of the COVID crap. It's really sad. I liked him. I wouldn't classify him as a swamp creature. Listen to bad advice. Well, the fact that he listened to the bad advice kind of speaks volumes that he's not a good candidate for the federal level. He can be governor. He can do good things as governor. And I could say, you know what, DeSantis, that's good. You know, I don't have to sit there and trash the guy 24/7. But in terms of him at the national level, I am saying that, you know, in the past, you know, in a post-Trump era, I would have said, yeah, I consider this guy. You know, I've said that in the past. But now it's like I just can't get behind it because I've seen how awful of a candidate he is at the national level. And it's not just because he, you know, is opposing Trump or whatever. You just have to look at his, like, certain political acumen. How did he do on the national stage? Not very well. And I think that that's very telling about his future. And he's probably going to only go down from here. But if he played his cards right, maybe, you know, he took a personality class or something and became human before 2028, he could have positioned himself well as Donald Trump's successor. But I think a lot of people, not everybody, because you have a lot of people that are skeptical of him, but more people see somebody like Vivek as that guy. And he was an unknown quantity a year and a half ago. He really was. So Real Texan Politics says, Roger Stone says Zeldin won't be VP. Again, that doesn't mean much at all. Just because somebody how close is Stone even to Trump at this point? Like, that's a serious question. Now, he might be right, but does he really know? Because we've heard so many people come up with so many conflicting statements. Folks, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you I have insider information. I know who it's going to be. I mean, there's a very good chance Trump hasn't even picked his VP. I'm sure he's floating certain things, and that's why he's having all these people rally with him in New Hampshire. I'm sure he's open to Zeldin. He's open to Elise. He's probably even open to Vivek. He's open to a lot of these people, but I don't think he has made his mind up just yet. And if somebody tells me that he does, even I'm skeptical of that, because who knows? Maybe they want it to be a surprise. Maybe who knows what's going on. But also, don't let Taylor's team. Well, yeah, I mean, either way, it doesn't matter. If the Chiefs lose to the Ravens next week, which I predict they will, they're going to stick the both of them up in that press box at the Super Bowl, and they're going to be panning to them 10, 15 times every quarter. I mean, we know how this works. We know. Like, they're not going to go away. They basically confirmed tonight that you're going to get probably 2 more weeks of this nonsense going on. Not just 1, but 2. So the best bet would be hope that the Chiefs get embarrassed one way or another, but I don't know. Cameron Campbell for 20 says, one important thing about Zeldin in this current climate of the Democratic Party backstabbing loyal Jewish voters and the far left embracing anti-Semitism, I think a Jewish VP could take some votes. Well, honestly, that's a very, very small demographic, for one. For two, a lot of these liberal Jews are still going to be voting Democrat regardless, because you have, probably around 60%, 65% who will stick with Biden no matter what, because Israel's mainly like a big issue for like Orthodox Jews, some conservative Jews, but in terms of like liberal or Reform Jews overall, which is somewhat of a majority, even though they may support Israel, it's not like their number one type of issue. And I think Zeldin would do better, but I don't think that that's the main core demographic that is going to win you an election. I mean, it's maybe in like a state like New York it could help out, but is Donald Trump going to win New York? Probably not. So that's the way I see it there. You have to talk about, what will expand the base more. Now, I'm not against the Zeldin pick. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, I kind of want to see Trump testing the waters overall. I'd also like to see some polling on how some of these picks could impact the race. But in terms of, picking somebody because of this demographic here and there, I just don't believe the identity selection is really going to help move the needle regardless. If he picks Ben Carson, is he going to get a lot of black voters on his side? No. I mean, like in terms of the malleability of some of these demographics, like it's not all that super high, but I think certain candidates can appeal to a wider population than others, and that's what he's going to have to weigh. Not necessarily, will I get this percent with this group who represents this percent of the population, if that percentage of the population is not exactly, of a very sizable one, or a very malleable one, because certain demographics are more malleable when it comes to voting than others, and we've seen that. So Security TV says DeSantis, hey, goodbye. Why the hell did he even run? Because he listened to people who told him that he could win, and he couldn't. Also, Olivia Williams says, did you see Tim Scott is getting married? Also, Tim Scott for VP. Well, I mean, I'm surprised that the woman's actually real is what I'm surprised about. But I don't know. Maybe he's doing that to prepare for being VP. But either way, I don't think he exactly has what it takes. I mean, the guy has been very close with Nikki Haley, actually, and Lindsey Graham and all these people. So yeah, Tim Scott, he can campaign for Trump. He can support Trump, do whatever he needs to do. But him as VP, like, I would not be the happiest about that. I also don't know what he brings. And he's proven, even when he was in the Senate, that he would dilute Trump's agenda regarding issues like crime. Him and Graham, they worked overtime. So yeah, I think he would be a problem, because you talk about somebody not getting in Trump's way on certain things. I think Scott would get on Trump's way in terms of a lot of things. Olivia Williams says, what's the deal with Trump mixing up Haley and Pelosi? Well, can you really tell a difference either? Like, can you tell a difference? Like, it probably was a genuine gaffe. It probably was. But, like, it's a little bit of a Freudian slip. It really is. And/or he just did that on purpose, because then he got the media to finally admit that Pelosi dropped the ball regarding security in January 6th. But, I mean, either way, it's like it doesn't matter. The difference is, it's like Donald Trump does this maybe once every month or every couple months. Joe Biden does it like every day. And he's been doing it, and it keeps getting worse, and it's a major problem. So that's the way I see it. Mike Oxhard says, my opinion is Vivek for VP and Tulsi for Secretary of Defense and Dave Smith for Secretary of the Treasury. Interesting. I don't know if I don't think either of, well, Tulsi might find a position in the cabinet. Isn't Dave Smith like that libertarian guy? Like, I don't know if he would be on Trump's radar for that position. But yeah, I don't even think Vivek is going to be considered for VP as much as some people think. Trevor Hint says, if Nikki Haley had her way, we'd be fighting in a war in Ukraine. Exactly. Ukraine and Israel. We'd be fighting in wars overseas. We'd probably have a lot more wars than just those two even. You know, you talk about how Trump getting elected possibly saved us from war with Russia, war with North Korea. Yeah, Nikki Haley would start World War III. It's funny. I remember Jeb Bush would call Donald Trump the chaos candidate back in 2016, when in reality, Nikki Haley is like the definition of a chaos candidate. She is the Republican Hillary Clinton, arguably on steroids, and it's a very good thing she's not going to end up being the nominee, but she needs to be embarrassed in New Hampshire if she stays until Nevada, South Carolina, so everybody needs to get out and vote for sure. So Wyatt says Trump needs to choose another man. He lost in 2020 because white voters did not turn out. Men will not turn out if you choose a woman. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily know if that's entirely true. I mean, I do think that when it comes down to it, like, he needs to choose somebody that will help him. Now, I don't think what he needs to do is shut out men, because you hear talk, oh, well, he's going to pick a woman. He wants to balance the ticket. He wants to appeal to suburban women or whatever. And it's like, a lot of those voters are long gone. They're not voting for anybody that has an R next to their name in the first place. A lot of them approve of Joe Biden even, which is a massive, massive problem. So overall, I will say that when it comes down to it, he needs to choose somebody who would fit the best position to, you know, like I said, go out there, help him expand the electorate if possible. But even then, somebody that just is not offensive to the base. I don't think that there's a lot of people that will say, I'm not voting for Trump because he picked, insert female here as VP. But I do look at the female choices, and a lot of them do look kind of weak overall. And I think he's going to weigh that into his equation. That's why we hear more talk about, all these men being considered when it was the short list was mainly women a few months ago that we would constantly keep hearing about. But Kristi Noem, she's kind of a little bit out of the picture. I mean, Stefanik's there, but he's testing the waters. I don't really think she's all that. and her voting record did suck. Now, I do think that as a VP, she's not going to get in his way, which is good, but, I mean, when it comes down to it, I don't really know if she's going to help him out a lot electorally or soften his image, because I think somebody like Ben Carson would soften his image quite a bit because it's more like a yin and yang type of thing. Wyatt says Trump needs to choose another man. I already did that one. Olivia Williams says, can Detroit beat San Francisco? And also Rosendale is running for Senate. Look, I know Rosendale's running. I don't know if it's the best move. I think he's going to get cooked in the primary, and it's just not worth it. And he's going to lose his House seat to an establishment Republican, and nobody wins from this. Nobody wins from his run. And kind of like when it came to the DeSantis thing, why'd you wait too long? You know, he could have announced last year, and he'd probably be the front runner when polls had him winning like 70-10 or 15 over Tim Sheehy. But instead, him running, you know, I like the guy a lot. I prefer him to Sheehy. But at this point, I don't think he has a shot. I don't think he would have a shot, and I think it's a waste. And I probably would encourage him not to run. But can Detroit beat San Francisco? I mean, yeah, they can. I mean, Green Bay almost beat them. They should have beaten them. I mean, you look at the fact that they missed a chip shot field goal and ended up losing. It's like, yeah, I mean, if San Francisco plays that way and the Lions play how they've been playing, it's possible they win. Now, are they the favorites? No, but I mean, I think there's probably like a 40% chance. You run that game 5 times, I think the Lions win, you know, at least 1 or 2 of them. So, Dustin Carner says CNN has Georgia as lean Republican. Wait, I think I lost the super. Oh, wait, there it is. His thoughts, it's redder than that. I don't think it's redder than that at all. I think we need not to get complacent about this. I mean, this is a state that it really just, I think it depends more on black turnout. And I think a lean Republican is about right. I think Trump probably wins it by a couple of points. But you look at the Atlanta area, it has zoomed left for a reason. Now, Biden struggling with his own base in the state of Georgia is definitely going to throw a wrench into the Democrats' plans of taking the state. It really is. So I'm not concerned about Georgia, but I think lean R is probably about right. I'd tilt to lean R at this point in Georgia. Yeah. I mean, Democrats are pulling funding and resources out of Georgia, and they could easily put it back in. I'm not saying they can't. But as of right now, yeah, Georgia is lean Republican. It's no more than that. It's probably no less than that. Quantum Football for 10 says, I was pledged to be a member of the Electoral College if Vivek won my state and will gladly vote for Trump in November. I hope that other people in my position do the same. I think every Vivek voter is coming on board to Trump. I really do. And you will see that there. Let's see. Poster Tubbs for 2 says Zeldin Bros vindicate. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm open to the idea. I'm not opposed to it. Will it happen, though? I don't know. We'll see. Just because one person says it's going to happen, then the other person says no way, doesn't mean anything to me at this point. These are all reports. This is all hearsay, and that we know. M says, thoughts on Trump's odds in New York if Zeldin is V? He's still losing New York. He's going to lose New York probably, but is it going to be close enough to save House seats? Yeah. Could that save the House for Republicans? Probably, and Trump would like to have that trifecta. Restless Dream says Larry Elder for VP is the best choice. Why? Like, I don't see it. He's a radio host. He got drilled in a governor's election a couple of years ago. That was a long shot to begin with, but even then he underperformed expectations. You know, he's a great guy, it seems, but him for VP, I just don't see it. Bobby Walter for 20 says, still don't trust Vivek, but I like him. Well, I didn't support him over Trump for a reason. I'm not saying I don't trust the guy, but, you know, I think he does need some time to prove himself in order for him to be in that position. But am I taking him over everybody else on that Republican debate stage, even knowing what I know now? Absolutely. Keith says, thoughts on having Byron Donalds be Trump's VP? I love the idea, but it won't happen because, like DeSantis and like a lot of other people that people have talked about, he's from the state of Florida, and you can't have 2 people from the same state unless you forfeit those electoral votes. And I don't think that Trump would want to do that because Florida is not only a very red state at this point, but it's also a state that is a big electoral prize. And Trump, very well, without Florida, his chances of winning would go from 60% to 20%, and you don't want that to happen. So Bobby Walter says Fetterman for VP. Well, that would be something, but it's not going to happen. But it's interesting. The guy gets his brain back and he starts being, he's now probably the most likable, the most sane Democrat in the Senate. Now, that's not saying anything to me. He's still very far left on a lot of things, but it's funny that now he starts talking sense when he gets his brain back. So he's going to be there for a long time. So you better hope that he pulls a reverse Arlen Specter and switches parties, but we'll see. I don't know if his rightward turn is sustainable. Shout out to Steven Knizik for 20. John Waffle says, I'm glad DeSantis dropped out. However, I'm suspicious of his endorsement. It didn't seem sincere. It doesn't have to seem sincere. It just has to happen. I'm not saying that I love DeSantis again. I want him to be Nobody's saying that. I'm just saying it's a good thing he dropped out. It's a good thing he gave any endorsement. And now you have a crutch because any of his supporters that say, well, I can't get on board with this. Well, DeSantis got on board, so why can't you get on board? So a lot of these people will have to over time unless they're just intentional agitators. And it might take time for some people to heal and start the healing process or whatever, but it is what it is. I mean, Bill Mitchell, of all people, he's like, well, he's still on the ballot. He suspended his campaign. It doesn't mean it's over. It's like, it's over. Get over it. It's over. You lost. It's okay to lose. But we got a country to save. You guys, a lot of these people apparently supported Trump for, they claim they supported Trump for the past 8-9 years. Well, let's get him in the White House then. What do you have to lose at this point? Jeff Butler says, Jesus is the way. John 3:16, read 3:17, for God did not send his son into the world to condemn it, but that the world through him might be saved. So true. Thank you. Seeking Finding says, like and share. Stephen Knizik says, Ron DeSantis wasted so much money that could have been used in the general. That alone will hurt him in 2028. I mean, yeah, it's not the only thing that will, but I mean, the people that remember all of the little details about his campaign, they will not support him. And I think that drawing attention to that by any other, candidate running, yeah, that's going to be something that will definitely play a role. So Nairinalm says, Stefanik needs to stay in Congress. She could do so much more help there. I choose Zeldin. He's genuine and not a swamp creature. I mean, I know that a lot of Trump's VPs are not going to be what people consider full MAGA. They're not. Full MAGA is somebody I would consider like, for example, a Kerry Lake type or like a Matt Gaetz, MTG, like some of the diehard supporters. He's not going to choose any of those people, and people need to, I think, come to grips with that. But he's going to choose somebody who's not a full establishment shill either. He's going to find somebody that's the middle ground, and he's going to find somebody that won't get in his way of his agenda, and they're going to help him down the stretch win. I mean, that's what he wants. It's what he's going to want to look for. Somebody who's not a backstabber, but somebody that probably isn't too similar to him either, because I don't think Trump wants to be outshined by anybody on the ticket. Joseph Wiley says, I hope now that President Trump will work with DeSantis against woke Disney. Well, we'll have to see about that. In terms of the Trump plan to there's things in Agenda 47 that deal with that sort of thing, so we'll have to see. Horizons Bear says, Mickey DeSantis. Austin Lewis says, Trump Tulsi ticket. Sniff My Bread says, what do you not like about Vivek's immigration policy? Well, the problem is he went out there and he basically said we need a lot of legal immigration to flourish, which again, I think we need to lower the number overall. And I think that is kind of an issue. If he's going to be somebody that wants to increase these work visas, that's not something I would consider to be an America First policy. I think we need to roll back immigration. We need to institute a pretty much even like a net zero moratorium for an extended period of time. We've had quite a big immigration wave, and we need to kind of have a pause. We need to focus on our own citizens. These people that have come over, they need to assimilate over time and not just into the, woke culture of degeneracy. We need to assimilate them into the proper American culture, which we need to get back, and we can't really establish that if we're going to be importing people by the millions that are going to be voting 80-20 for the party that stands in complete opposition, because I think the Republican Party is salvageable. I don't think it's perfect, obviously. a lot of rhinos, a lot of neocons, a lot of establishment Republicans. But, I think that you're seeing a big shift. And if you really are going to sit there with a straight face and, say it's the same party that it was in the 2000s, you're wrong. It's not. It's gotten a lot better, and it will continue to get a lot better. We got to be pragmatic. But yeah, I think that, and at the same time, I do think it's possible that Vivek's position's evolving. He went on the debate stage. He said that it's not a theory, it's fact that Democrats want to alter this nation's demography for their own benefit. And he said that in front of Nikki Haley and got absolutely shellacked for it by a lot of these people on CNN who were whining. It was mainly a self-shellacking on their part to themselves, but it's like, yeah, if these people are, crying about it, well, it means that maybe he's real. So who knows what his position will be. I think he's got potential. So Joe K says Ron DeSantis was running to win the Iowa caucus. He failed, and Trump is running to win the presidency. Poster Tubb says Zeldin helps with suburbs and as a surrogate in general. Yeah, I think that would be what his strength would play to, not necessarily like, the Israel-Palestine conflict or whatever. I think that the strength he plays to is, he would be a workhorse on the campaign trail. He would help placate some suburbanites, and I don't think he's somebody who would be a complete and total pushover. I think that he wouldn't get in Trump's way of a lot of things, and I think he could kind of, communicate the agenda well to Congress to help get it passed through. So that's kind of what I see his role as. Joe K says Josh Hawley, I think, would be an interesting pick for VP. Well, I agree, but we need him in the Senate, and he's running for re-election. So dollar for dollar with $2 says Dems' 2024 strategy is keeping Joe out of public eye. Well, they can't do that anymore. They can try, but it's not going to work. The guy is despised. They were able to keep him afloat in 2020. They can't do it anymore because he has a record that he can't run from. Let's Go Joe says Noam or Vivek, no other possible choices. I don't think it's going to be Noam. For the record, let's see. We have more super chats. Shout out to LinRx52 for becoming a new member. Jeremy Greenberg says a guy nobody is talking. Okay, I'm not going to read that. Haha, very funny. Austin Lewis says Trump, Charlie Baker. No, definitely not. He'd be better off picking Nikki Haley than Charlie Baker, arguably. And you're not winning New England with Charlie Baker. RZ the Legend says, is it possible that the powers that push wokeness in order to get people to vote for Trump as some form of reverse psychology? I've heard this. Well, what exactly do you mean? Like, the establishment is actually based in they're pushing wokeness to wake people up. Like, what does that even? That doesn't make sense to me. That seems counterproductive. Real Text in Politics says, I'm surprised George W. Bush hasn't endorsed Haley yet. Wonder what the holdup is. Maybe he's skipping the primary. Yeah, he's probably not going to support her because he knows she's not going to win. He's not going to back Trump either. But, I mean, are the Bushes really all that active in politics anyways? At this stage in the game, probably not. Cameron Campbell says, I was a Vivek supporter, but now I'm wearing my old MAGA hat. I think that's pretty much been everybody. I mean, a lot of the people that supported Vivek have always been Trump's base, but maybe they just see him as the future, like what he had to bring to the table. I mean, he was never really in this to win this, but he still put up a fight and got 8% of the vote. Trump said he was surprised that he got the call from Vivek because he was doing so well. Dustin Carner says, personally think Kemp has been a solid governor for Georgia. I disagree. And it's not just because, he had a fight with Trump. I mean, you look at him by the metrics. I mean, this guy, he speaks at WEF, supports their agenda. He has more illegal aliens residing in Georgia than they have in Arizona even. I mean, he has incentivized liberal industry to come in droves. I mean, I don't think that, the guy is always the worst governor in the country, like some people may say. But is he far from the best? Yeah, absolutely. He's been very, very mediocre for sure. Aquafan says, Trump said it well at his rally today. We will win by big numbers, but we need to act like we're down by one, flood the polls. Yeah, I agree. This complacency thing is not good. You don't want complacency. We probably are going to win, but we're not going to win if we act like it's guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. Nothing's a guarantee. We saw 2022. Mainly, that was supposed to be a big red wave. It wasn't. I think complacency might have played a little bit of a role in the wave disappearance, but there's plenty of factors for it. Samuel Harrison said, do you think Taylor Swift ruins the Chiefs? And do you think she will help get Joe Biden reelected with her popularity with Gen Z? I don't think she's all that popular, for one. Secondly, when celebrities start talking politics, even if they're popular, that doesn't move the needle politically speaking in most cases. So I do think she has ruined the Chiefs. Every time they're on TV, they pan to her 30 times a game. It's like, we don't care. A lot of people just don't care. But do I think that they'll trot her out as a surrogate for Biden? Probably. Do I think it's going to move the needle? No. I mean, Hillary Clinton would have won in an epic landslide if celebrity endorsements played a role. It's like a lot of people that might like somebody's music don't necessarily like their politics, or they're going to vote for somebody because they tell them to. Now, of course, they're going to try to register people where possible. We got to do the same. We have Trump and an American flag, and then they have their candidate and all the celebrities in the world. Trump still gets bigger crowds than they do. So JL says, what do you think about Alan West for VP? Probably not going to happen. Not on Trump's radar. Keith says, Red Eagle for Trump's VP. Yeah, I'm not eligible. I would like to be eligible, but no, not quite. Austin Lewis says, Trump RFK Jr. ticket. Probably not. And I think that would probably cause some problems for the base too, because RFK Jr. has been a lifelong Democrat. So Sam Madsen says, at this point, will Fetterman be winning places like Luzerne County in 2028? Probably not, but I think that overall he'll possibly do better. It depends who Republicans put up against him. It depends where he really stands on issues then. It depends on the political climate. I think it depends on a lot if he's going to win a certain county or not, but is he being a lot better than I think a lot of people initially thought he was? Yeah, like there's a reason why he won despite being virtually brain dead. And, he even when he was doing his campaign ads, he was talking about, oh, well, my parents are Trump supporters and we're going to support, everything, whatever. Dr. Oz is a carpetbagger. Maybe we laughed at the New Jersey messaging, but I think that played a role in the short term. But who knew what his long-term strategy was if he even knew anything at the time? But, I think the stroke arguably helped him initially because it allowed him to hide behind it, because at the time he was not really any less brain dead before the stroke. But I mean, after he's recovered, he somehow has kind of taken a rightward turn, at least rhetorically speaking. I think it's going to help him out. I don't know by what he's going to win by. I don't know what level of electoral juggernaut he's going to be. Who knows? He might try to run for president in 2028 for all we know. I don't know if that's on his docket, but we'll see. Stephen Knyzek says Ryan Binkley deserves praise for 360, no scoping, Asa Hutchinson, if nothing else. I mean, yeah, he's still in the race. I'm kind of surprised he's still in the race. Sam Madsen said we had a lot of our bench wiped out in 2018 and failed to build a future bench in 22, so I don't really know who we could run post-Trump. I think it's going to be an outsider. I really do. Maybe we don't know who it's going to be. But Donald Trump, was he on a lot of people's radars in 2011? I mean, there were talks about him running, but if there weren't any talks about him running, he probably would not have really been on the radar for a few more years. So who knows who it's going to be. Callan Shaw Indie Game says, did Tim Scott get engaged tonight because he's the pick? I don't know. It's possible that he could be vying for it. I don't know if he's the pick. FB says, to play devil's advocate, I think of all the illegal immigrants will not support the alphabet agenda because of all the trad Catholics. No, it's not how it works, okay? I mean, if that was how it works, they wouldn't be voting 80-20, and a lot of them don't support the agenda. I don't think the Democrat coalition in the long term is all that sustainable, but saying, oh, well, all these people are natural conservatives. We've heard this talking point for years. And while it is true that like the third generation Hispanics are voting like 50-50 now, and that's a good thing, and they're moving right. Like when you have all these people, the, fresh arrivals, they don't vote that way, and they just don't. And a lot of it is for economic reasons. There's plenty of reasons for why it is, but I mean, the malleability of the voting patterns, it's not all that high. It's more for Hispanics than it is for like black voters, for example. But I mean, overall saying, oh, the illegal aliens are going to vote Republican, no. Now, it is true that in the long term, We'll have to see what happens, but if you limit immigration, yeah, it could come back to bite them in a place like Texas if you have these third and fourth generation Texan Hispanics moving right. Yeah, it's possible it could bite the Dems in the rear end, but all these people that are coming across the border, they're not all like these trad Catholics or whatever, for one. For two, a lot of people pouring across aren't even from Central America. A lot of them are from South America. They're from like Africa. They're from the Middle East. Like Trump called this out in 2016 or 2015 in his announcement speech. Everybody thought he was crazy. He's 100% right. Let's see. Tucson Paleocon says DeSantis should fundraise $150 million for Trump as reparations. Yeah, he's going to be hazed. He's got to be hazed a little bit, but, you know, whatever. Colin Shaw Indie Game says, will Biden get more or less than 81 million votes in 2024? I think less. I think you'll see turnout dip overall, but who knows? I mean, we never thought either candidate would be getting what they got in January of 2020, so you never know. It's a tough question to really answer. Cameron Campbell says, if Biden tries to use Taylor Swift, Trump would just sit and claim she's an elite who thinks she's better than the working class. It was Hillary's mistake. Yeah, I mean, like this notion, Taylor Swift is going to cause a mass exodus of female Republicans to vote for Joe Biden or something like that. Like, come on. Like, even if people like Taylor Swift's music, they don't necessarily like her politics. And I think her fame is overstated. I mean, all I see is people on the internet complaining about her getting showed every 25 seconds at every NFL game she goes to. So I don't really think that people like the AstroTurfing, and her favorability rating is taking a nosedive overall. It's only 50-some%. That's not enough to carry you. That's not like an endorsement that's going to make a big difference. It's not. I mean, come on. Let's see. Real Texan Politics says Fetterman's probably grifting to get Republican support, but it'll probably lead him to get easily reelected by Casey margins. Yeah, I agree. It's possible. CDB says, what about Winsome Sears of Virginia? Well, her and Trump, she took a stab at Trump and said, we need new blood in the Republican Party, so you can toss that out the window. Youngkin would actually be more likely, and he's not going to be on Trump's radar, so I don't really see that as the case. But Samuel Harrison says, Rufus 2028, ? Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. But no, I mean, Rufus, of all people, this Twitter guy Rufus, who's a character, for those who don't know, probably a lot more people here don't know because we have so many people in chat, but this one eccentric individual who you just absolutely has TDS, he loves DeSantis, and he posted a map where Trump was barely winning Missouri and losing Alaska and saying this is what the election map's going to look like. And it's like, what's wrong with these people? I mean, TDS, I feel like TDS is worse on some parts of the right, even that it even is on the left with these resist libs. You look at what these people are saying. Trump can't win. It's like he's the favorite right now. And maybe he doesn't win. Maybe things change. We thought he was the overwhelming favorite in early 2022, and look what happened. So we know that nothing's a guarantee. We understand that, but still, Trump, by every metric, is the favorite for 2024 right now. So to say he's going to get blasted in a landslide when his floor is basically what his what results were in 2020, because that's how polarized we are as a country, it's pretty ridiculous. So you could say maybe he falls short, or your gut says he's going to fall short. Still, you should still get on board and try to help him win. I mean, it's just demoralizing on purpose. It doesn't really move the needle. Roy Grisham for 2, thank you. Poster Tubbs says illegals equals natural conservatives rhetoric in 24. Yeah, exactly. They're not. A lot of the people coming across probably vote left-leaning in these countries. Because, yeah, you have a lot of people in Central America and South America that vote for very, very right-wing parties. Those people also tend not to be the same people that are crossing our southern border in droves. So, yeah, illegals are and yeah, I'm not a big fan of legal immigration either. I think the numbers need to be cut overall significantly, if not a net zero moratorium. But still, this notion that, they're going to come in and vote right wing already is false. But then you add illegals on top of it. No, absolutely not. Catholic Samurai says, trust me, Latino immigrants are not trad Catholics. Some moms stay devout, but 97% of kids become secularist and progressives. The attrition is awful. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, you talk about the religious rates by community. I mean, it depends. Like, you do have a lot of Latinos that are Christian or Catholic or whatever, but I mean, in terms of the overall percentage, it's not like it's not like a overwhelming majority. And the people that are crossing the southern border don't tend to be like these trad cats that are going to come in here and vote Republican or establish this like trad cath monarchy that some people think. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. But all right, we've been going for an hour and 14 minutes. If you have any super chats, feel free to send them in. We could also look at regular chat too. But it just seems like, yeah, the Desantis campaign, it was a colossal failure. It was a complete and total bust. And it's now over. It's done. And Donald Trump is the nominee. We might as well just rally behind him. If you did not support Trump in the primary, I will say I'm reaching out. I'm not saying that I'm not saying these people need to be front and center or they need to lead the campaign. But I'm saying, yeah, we need to get people on board. We got to get independents on board even. Like, you have to reach out. Trump knows this. Trump already reached out. Like, Trump knows what he's doing. He's not going to sit there and say, these people need to get out or whatever. He's not telling these people that, it's over, we can't have you here, whatever. He's saying, I'm reaching out. And that's a good thing. He needs to reach out. He needs to say it. And even if people view it as an empty gesture, it's still important. I mean, that's how it works. We need people on board. We need to win. That's the way it goes. So Sergeant Willie says, what's the over-under on Casey filing for divorce within a year? Look, I don't know. And, we could talk about this all day long. Oh, make fun of DeSantis, this, that, and the other thing. But honestly, the guy's irrelevant now. He is. Like, we had our fun. He's basically Brian Kemp 2.0. He's a governor of a state in the South that's remotely competitive, and he's done some positive things and some negative things, mainly the negative things being whatever the hell this has been for the past year. But yeah, it's over, and it kind of proved that he wasn't the more electable candidate, just based off of how his campaign was run. These people running a campaign, that basically proves that you're not more electable. The whole electability farce goes out the window. Shout out to LinRx52 for 10. Sam Madsen says, let's say it's November and Trump loses. What will have caused him to lose? I think it would be Biden recovering, because I think all the things that they're going to throw at him, 1-6, Luxian denying, whatever you can think of, democracy, it's not going to make the difference. It's really not. And even if people want to say, and which is not the case in my view, I still maintain that's not the reason why Republicans underperformed in the midterms. But let's say it was. Let's accept their premise is accurate, which I don't. But Donald Trump can counteract the narrative better than any single other candidate running for a governorship or even for Senate, especially because a lot of those candidates were severely outspent, both in the primary and the general. But still, yeah. Cameron Campbell says, what is your home state and NFL team? Birth state, Michigan. Current home state, Texas. Football team, it is none other than the Detroit Lions, as emphasized by this mini helmet right here, as I think most people know. So, Dustin Carner says, thoughts on HS maps. Georgia maps are good. Louisiana maps are bad. You're talking about, I believe, redistricting or house maps is, I think, shorthand. I've never seen that shorthand before for house. But I think that Republicans in some states, they drop the ball. They're too weak. They cave to this narrative. I mean, the segments of the VRA that say you need certain districts for certain demographics, they don't even apply them universally. You'll never see a white district in Nevada or New Mexico. But for some reason, the maps in Louisiana or Mississippi, they have to draw another majority-minority district because of a poor court ruling for something that's already unconstitutional. It should not have been involved. Like, there are parts and clauses of these acts from the 1960s that are not constitutional, that do not stand up, that don't necessarily help out the American people in any way, shape, or form. And these certain clauses, as controversial as it may be to say, should be repealed. End of discussion. It's affirmative action. Affirmative action is unconstitutional. It should not be a thing. And if it is a thing, you apply it both ways, and they're not even doing that. So all it is anti-white discrimination, plain and simple. LynRX52 says, forgot my message on my other super chat. What's your prediction for Tuesday? I don't want to spoil my video tomorrow entirely, but I think Donald Trump is going to decimate Nikki Haley. And I think with the Desantis endorsement, there's a good chance he gets close to 60, if not clears it. It just depends on the early vote percentage for the other candidates. So I'll factor that into my prediction as well. Let's see. All right, any other members of chat? My ideology doesn't... How does my ideology not align with Trump that much? I mean, there are things I disagree with him on. I'm just saying that I don't see where the glaring disagreements tend to be. But chat was electric tonight so far. We've had 1,500 people. We're here. We're almost to midnight on the East Coast, and we have 1,500 people in the live chat. It's insane. Dustin Carner says, will Republicans keep the Wisconsin legislature? Any new trifectas? Yeah, I think that you'll see a little bit of a bounce back in the Midwest or some places where Republicans suffered down ballot effects and losses in 2022. So, yeah, you could see flip backs in Michigan, possibly Pennsylvania with Trump on the ticket, which already it's like razor thin in both states. So, yeah, I think you could see some more states move right. I don't know about trifectas because Republicans don't have the governorship in literally any of those places. Jake W. says, do you honestly think your Lions stand a chance against the Niners next week? I'll be rooting for you. Well, thank you. I think they stand a chance. I wouldn't say that they're favored to win, but I definitely am hoping that they do. But I just, it's hard to process what's already taken place because of how surreal it's been. I could barely imagine what winning and getting to the Super Bowl would actually feel like because, like, you couldn't even say Lions and Super Bowl in the same book, let alone same sentence up until a couple weeks ago. Rick Rod 95 says the 2 migrants drowning at the border turned out to be not Texas's fault. The leftist media will not do retractions. They want more dead bodies for political gain. Of course, we know this. I mean, they will try to censor advertisements that Trump did back in like 2018 because, this is too radical or whatever. But in reality, Trump is just showing what's happening. You have some guy talking about how he wanted to, redact certain officers of the law and was laughing about it in this political ad back in 2018. They actually worked overtime to ban it. Could they get away with it now? Now that the Overton window is moving on the issue? I don't know. But, there are certain ads that Republicans need to run. Democrats will run ads, the most disgusting, the most disgraceful ads, the most... they twist the facts about abortion. They allow those ads. But if you just show what's going on, at the southern border, this ad is racist, we're going to ban this ad. It's like, seriously? We can't allow this to happen. We can't allow it to happen because it's just affecting elections when they do this sort of thing. But yeah, it's a big problem. It's a massive issue. And we have to do everything we can do to counteract this narrative because, it's complete nonsense. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog says, can you do a House prediction map soon? I want to know if we retake the House. I will do one next month. For sure. So, let's see. We have another super chat. JT says, Iowa governor for VP. I supported Cruz and DeSantis in the primaries, waiting to vote for Trump for the 3rd time in a general. Well, first of all, thank you for being a team player, unlike some people on social media. I mean, we're happy to have anybody that we could have. However, I don't think Kim Reynolds is going to be in consideration for VP after she broke her neutrality promise and then supported DeSantis when he had 0 shot, and it really failed to move the needle. And also, she is unpopular. She's like, her approval rating is among the worst of all the governors in the country, like it or not. I thought she would have been a possible VP pick when she won big in 2022. But, when she made her decision, it's like, I don't think Trump's going to forget that necessarily. So, a late endorsement, I don't think it really matters. Those can build momentum, but endorsing somebody else and like working overtime for that candidate, it's like, yeah, I don't think Trump's gonna really want somebody like that on his side, because I think loyalty does matter in politics to a certain degree, because if they're able to do that, who knows what they're capable of doing when they get in power. So, yep. Let's see. I think that's it. I think that's the last super chat we have. So, yeah, it's over for Ron DeSantis. It's over for DeSantis. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? I guessed, actually. I think it was the first one to blow the whistle. I said if he runs, he's making a massive, massive mistake. As a result, it seems like I've been vindicated. I don't know. Mr. Napoleon says, do you think it's possible that the establishment Republicans will try to run a third-party candidate to disenfranchise Trump? Probably not. I mean, they already have RFK Jr. as their crutch. They might even have Dean Phillips running on no labels. That's another story that I didn't bring up yet tonight, but it is true. And if that happens, again, you're taking somebody who's like a neoliberal, but like viewed as competent third party. And you talk about Minnesota, that could hand Minnesota to Trump inadvertently. Now, I don't know if they'd see it that way, but he expressed possible interest of running on no labels. Yeah. I mean, you absolutely love to see it. Keith says, would you ever debate a Democrat in a live stream? I'd love to see you debate this Joe Biden supporter named Harry. Yeah, I know who Harry is, the typical Democrat on TikTok or whatever. I mean, a lot of these people don't debate. He's like bought and paid for to shill, and it's laughable. I mean, the way that these people operate. I don't think it'd be even worth it to debate some of these people. I will say I'm not opposed to it. I'm not going to shy away from a debate or conversation, and maybe we'll have some later on in the year. I mean, I've debated several DeSantis people before, both on Twitter Spaces. I've debated them on my channel, and I think it's been productive. I think we know the winner of the argument by now in all cases, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to debating a Democrat, but that guy's like bought and paid for. I don't even think he would debate. Jeff Willems for 20 says Trump will likely pick Sarah Sanders for VP. I mean, she's barely been governor. I don't know if he would want to do that, because if somebody's only been in office for 2 years and you pick them, is that really like considered to be like a really viable option? Like it's like picking JD Vance. It's like Vance has barely been there. He's been there for, I believe, just over a year. So him to pick somebody like that, I don't think it's likely. I really don't. The Green Renegade says, what are your thoughts on DeSantis' political future? It's probably over. Maybe he'll run for Senate in the future, but president, I can't see it. Sam Madsen says, does at least one legislative house in Wisconsin hold even with redistricting or both? Well, I'd have to look at the new maps. I mean, it's possible, but we'll see. It's possible. It's possible that they could hold. I mean, I think what you saw in 2022, I mean, in terms of the way that the state voted, you're not going to have an incumbent governor at the top of the ticket. So definitely you'll see some shake up there. So yeah, let's see. I ran an experiment, swing the national environment by R+7, and model results based on trends of past cycles. And Colorado still shifted 2 to 3 points to the left. The state is gone. Yeah, I mean, Colorado's been gone for a while. That's not really new news. That's like saying Ohio is unwinnable for Democrats, or Iowa is, or even like a state like Missouri. I think it's arguably more comparable to that. It's not even that elastic at this point. But yeah, but I agree 100%. Colorado is done. Colorado is done. Did Bill Mitchell delete his account yet? No, they're not. They are living in delusion. And like the diehard DeSimps, I'm not talking about your average DeSantis voter when I say DeSimps, because yeah, Trump's reached out to them. Trump is united, but the people the holdouts, the DeSimp holdouts, those people are legitimately insane. I'm sure Mitchell will find a way back to Trump because he needs engagement. I mean, he lost a lot of it, but yeah. FB says, didn't you have a team debate with Officer Tatum against Hunter and Vaush? Yeah, like years ago. There's 2 Lalos in chat. We have an evil Lalo in chat saying Republicans actually think they have. Yeah, okay. We have an evil Lalo and we have the moderator Lalo. That's true. Let's see. DeSimps like Matt. Well, is Matt Walsh a holdout, though? Because Matt Walsh, like, I have grievances with some of these people, but I think Matt Walsh at least is the type of guy that would come back to Trump. Like, even, Ben Shapiro, of all people, who I'm not a fan of, who called Nikki Haley his spirit animal, he's basically said it's over. Nikki Haley needs to drop whatever she's doing because he knows that only Trump can get this thing done. So if Ben Shapiro, of all people, is saying unite behind Trump, you got, like, these people are going to have no choice but to unite behind Trump. Sam Madsen says, what do you think has caused Reynolds' approval to tank? It's been a little bit more than the DeSantis stuff, but I think it's because of the whole Chinese farmland type thing. I think that's played a role. I don't know what exactly is behind it, but it definitely, her approval has dipped a bit. I think that might be part of the reason why. I don't know if there's any specific scandals, but I don't think that her parading around with Ron DeSantis necessarily helped her approval rating either. So, am I still friends with the guy I streamed the 2020 election with? Yeah, of course. Not like, I don't stream with him anymore, but yeah, we're cool. Let's see. Vivek or Lee Zeldin for I think both will be on the short list. I really do. I mean, I don't think he'll choose Vivek, though, because you have to understand it's a personality conflict. They're two similar individuals who both are like these charismatic, like alpha males type thing on the ticket. Like, you can't have that in most cases and have it work out. You just can't. Like, I'm not the one making the rules. Would I vote for the ticket? Absolutely. But I'm just saying, I don't know if Trump wants somebody that will outshine him, but I think he understands that, yeah, you will see the base overall gravitate behind Vivek. I don't know about the whole, like, electoral strategy. I don't know if that would help, but I think it would help with younger voters, too. I don't know if that's a demographic that you'd like to lean on for turnout, but, I mean, second place in the Republican primary field for voters under 29 in the real exit poll, okay, because some DeSimps were touting the CNN ones that are not that accurate and haven't been for quite some time. But the AP poll, Trump was there with 52%. Second place, it was Vivek with 17%. And it's like, that's huge. I think he does have appeal. He didn't win the demographic, but he did extraordinarily well given the fact that he was kind of seen as somebody that had zero chance. So, I don't know. All right. Could I please keep up? I think I'll keep this live stream up, actually. I will keep it up because this is a big live stream. It's very important. We talked about a lot of good things. I think I will keep this live stream up for sure. Yeah, let's see. But yeah, I mean, we have to do what we can do to turn out voters. We do. We have to turn out voters. We have to do our work overtime. And we have a great community here, almost 160,000 people. And everybody needs to get involved in some way, shape, or form. I mean, if you have the free time and you're not using it to make calls or knock doors, I mean, it might seem boring, but that's how these things are done. If every person that subscribed to this channel, which is 160,000 people, gets 10 people who were not going to vote originally out to vote for Donald Trump, then we will have gained Donald Trump approximately 1.6 million voters in this election, which would be absolutely huge given the fact that the last election was decided by, 40-some thousand votes across 3 states? I mean, people need to get involved. They do. Put in the hard work. Absolutely. So, 100%. I mean, we have a lot of potential. And make sure you guys like the stream. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys subscribe. We're going to go out there and we're going to get this thing done in New Hampshire and nationwide. We have no choice. Keith says, I'm from Minnesota. I agree with everything you say about my state. Do you think there's hope for Minnesota? I think it can be saved. I think it depends on the third-party vote share. It really does. It was high in 2016. Every election that's competitive in the state of Minnesota that Republicans have a shot at winning in history, you see a high third-party vote share. And if you get 45, 46% of the vote and there's that high vote share, yeah, it's in play. Does that mean that Donald Trump is like guaranteed Minnesota? No, but I think it's possible. I think testing the waters there doesn't hurt. I think it's a winnable state, but I don't think it's as winnable as any of the other swing states we talk about. The Green Renegade says, do you think California could potentially become more competitive? I'm thinking someone young and a diehard conservative. Yeah, I don't think California is going to be all that competitive, but I do think that the margins will get closer. Let's see. More super chats. M says Shapiro should move to... Okay. All right. Funny. It's true. I mean, he's not somebody that's like all that America First conservative. I will say that much. Sam Madsen says, I saw an interview with a voter from Muskegon who said he was voting for Trump but would vote for Whitmer if she was the Democrat nominee. Well, Whitmer's not the Democrat nominee. So, I mean, there you go. Jeff Wilhelm says, what has been done to stop voter F again? I fear it has not been. Well, here's the deal. Whatever's baked into the cake is baked into the cake. And if you're going to sit back here and complain and say there's no point, then you're not helping. You're not. Now, how you win is you get enough ballots in the ballot box and you defeat whatever the Democrats get in the ballot box. Do I think it's possible? Yeah. If it's not possible, then why would Trump run in the first place? If it's not possible, then why are Republicans still winning some elections in competitive states? Of course it's possible, but you have to go out there and win. There's plenty of other factors at play too. There were plenty of other factors at play in 2020. You look at the, if that was the only thing at play, why is the FBI colluding with Twitter to censor certain media stories that make Biden look bad and make Trump look good? And they're promoting stories that were proven false that made Trump look bad. Like, seriously, there's a lot of things at play. And I think it's important to acknowledge all of them. I think this hyper-focus on one thing or another, even though that thing could be real and it could be a factor, it's a lot of factors. And I think that we need to acknowledge that, but I think that we need to try harder. You know, we know how these things work. I mean, we've watched elections for the past 5 years on this channel alone. It'll be 5 years come February. So... Let's see. I'm not going to let this guy call in. If he wants to call in, he could join the Discord server. It's 16 cents a day on the website. We'll do a call-in stream before the month is over. I would like to, at least. I am not going to do one until after New Hampshire, but I will do one at some point. But yeah. Let's see. All right, I think we're going to end the stream soon. This will be the last call for Super Chats. We're going to end it in a few minutes, but this is the last call for Super Chats. So make sure if you have any Super Chats, feel free to send them in now or they may not be read. But this will be the last call. We'll end in a couple minutes or so. And we have a big one, a big Super Chat, $50 record of the night. Catholic Samurai says, regarding Wisconsin, it's in the rearview mirror, but I relieved Tim Michaels lost Wisconsin because I know him personally. He's 100% dirty neocon, put on MAGA face because he knew it was his only shot and desperate to win after 2 election losses. He would have turned... yeah, I agree. He was weak. He was a weak candidate. Every candidate in that running was weak. I think Michaels was not the best pick or endorsement. I thought Kleefisch had her own problems. I thought Ramthun was somebody who would have been Mastriano on steroids. And as a result, Michaels was chosen, and he did not do well. He lost. Now, I think that we realize that beating incumbent governors is a lot harder than it initially looked. And if you look at historical data, it's very difficult that you topple an incumbent governor unless their approval rating is super, super low. I mean, that's why even you see Beshear hold on in Kentucky. You see Laura Kelly hold on in Kansas. But, yeah. The Green Renegade says, why is Michigan swinging to Trump after 2022? Well, because people need to understand that some governor election where Whitmer's approval rating recovered and Republicans put up somebody that has never held statewide elected office before, I mean, that's clearly going to lean more to the Democrat side than I think we initially thought. Donald Trump inspires a massive turnout base in Michigan, unlike we've ever seen among these white working class voters, for one. And two, Biden has got an approval rating in the state that's like in the mid-30s. So take all that together. Yeah, I think Trump is the favorite in Michigan. I don't think he's guaranteed Michigan, but I can see why CNN in their little map is putting Michigan in the Republican column. So yeah, someone said chances that, Robinson wins in North Carolina. I think he's favored. I think he is. I think he's a stronger candidate than a lot of people will give him credit for. There's a reason why he's doing so well in the primary, and him doing well in the primary, uniting the party behind him, bodes very well for the general election in North Carolina. Now he's going to face a tough task because you see the fact that Democrats usually win the governorship there. But is he a weak candidate? No. Democrats, are they putting up a super strong candidate? He's not like super weak, but we'll have to see. Keith for 5. I think this will be the last one. Thoughts on if taxes, I think you meant Texas, will become a blue state in the future. I feel like we'll be doomed if that happens. Well, I think we're going to see after this election cycle, but I'll say this. If you don't get that border under control, you're going to have a big problem. And I think Texas is going to deliver Trump a very solid electoral victory this fall, despite some of the recent elections like 2016, 2020. It's moved to the left. I think you're going to see a rebound, and I think it's going to bode very, very well for Donald Trump. So that being said, I think we're going to end it. It's been a great stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another stream. I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.